who are voting against giving trans children orthodontia or
so you read the second paragraph and be like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, exactly.
What is this?
Exactly. And I think that's like the strangest thing, which if I were to say to you, conservatives voted to protect at-risk youth from undergoing unnecessary medical procedures, you'd be like, oh wow, cool, that seems like it could be good.
Mentally unstable youth, permanently scarring,
Right, vulnerable population, if you tell us over and over and over again, are subject to all kinds of mental health risks that you know, other people are not, should not be experimented on. If I told you that, you would agree with me, but if as soon as I tell you I'm a conservative, I'm against letting minors undergo hormone and surgery, then you're against it. That's bizarre.
That's bizarre. I have a question. I got a question for you. Remember how you just said you died with COVID, you died of COVID, and you treated everyone with COVID, and you died with January 6th and died of January 6th? Since all the data shows that minors who have this mutilation benefit themselves, their suicide rate goes up. Should they be considered died of trans surgery or died with trans surgery?
Yeah, so I've looked there. There's a bunch of different. There's a bunch of different studies that I've seen on this, and some of them will claim that when you do these interventions, you actually see a decrease in suicide rate. I've looked into those studies. The ones that I've seen are pretty nonsensical. There's a study that I won't even get into pulling. Well, maybe I will. So there was a survey done in 2015 of like 27,000 transgender people, but the way it was done was by reaching out to advocacy groups and then having those groups find people to answer these questions.
So Rachel Levine was interviewed in
So basically what ended up happening was this data was parsed through by Jack Turbin of Stanford University, and they released this statement they released this study based on this data just I think a year or two ago. And they said, look, this study proves that health outcomes and life outcomes get better for people, because what we actually were able to do with this study was measure trans youth who got health care.
I just say transgender.
Transgender identifying. And we saw the ones who could get the hormones and puberty blockers, and those who couldn't. And we found the life outcomes were better for people who were able to use puberty blockers. There are several issues with that, which is firstly one of the reasons a person won't qualify for these treatments is because they have significant mental health issues to the point where that doctor doesn't feel comfortable giving it to them. So in the group of people who weren't able to receive the treatment, we would already expect for there to be worse mental health outcomes, and none of that was going for them. And also what the study did is they took men taking estrogen and women taking testosterone and lumped their results together because that's the same kind of treatment. So what they did end up finding was that one of those groups had their suicide rate go up after they started taking hormones and the other didn't, but then they just squished it all together to hide that and make it seem like taking those hormones is better for you. There's also a bunch of other issues with that survey. There's a bunch of other issues with the other studies they claim. There have been, I think, the most credible and reliable studies that have come out about this. Again, I'm not basing this on looking at the results, but I'm talking about studies that have looked through actual medical data in Nordic Europe, have found that there's actually an increased suicide rate once you get far enough out from the surgery. About 10 years, you see a massive spike. This stuff isn't good for people. Even the studies that purport to show that suicide rate or life goes down or life outcomes increase will show it occurring to a very marginal degree that doesn't even put that person in line with the rest of the population. So you end up engaging in this mutilation for a very slight, even negligible benefit. But again, that's a slight or negligible benefit within like a year or two, often based on small sample sizes and poorly collected data. That doesn't go all the way out to that 10-year mark where more credible studies have shown the suicide rate really increases.
It's very hard also to survey for the community.
And that's what, so there was a study out of study out of Sweden that went over hundreds and hundreds of different people's medical histories, and they compared people who had been diagnosed with dysphoria, who received treatment for, dysphoria, or in other words, I shouldn't say treatment for dysphoria, who had these mutilating interventions, those who didn't, and then the general population. And what they found out just by looking at those medical records is that hospitalizations for suicide doubled among the people who had received the intervention. So We're going to go to Super Chats now. So I want you all to smash that like button and share this video. If you enjoyed it, join us at timcast.com. Join as a member to watch the live show where viewers will be calling in and speaking to us live. It's also uncensored, so we get to say all the things that we want to say here. I'm not your buddy,
That's
guys.
why Carter's so
I've been
quiet.
holding in words all day, and I can't wait to just let them all out.
Let them all out.
You have to come to the episode.
Carter's gonna get wild. I'm not your buddy guy. He says, now more than ever, we need to lock shields with Trump. We cannot allow corrupt, evil, deceptive traitors to dictate who can or cannot be elected. Also, yes, there are many traitors who are aiding in the West control of the Ooh, spicy. How do you guys feel about that?
Yeah, I agree.
Raymond G. Stanley Jr. says, Seamus, did you see Mary's interview with Knowles? How dare she? I did. And that was, I didn't see the whole thing. Why would I watch all of that? But I saw a clip of it. I saw the moment where she smeared me, and it was unbelievable. Really don't. I would advise people not watch it. It was behind the paywall, and you want to see the Timcast conversation behind the paywall. But, I think his audience was disappointed that she was there today. And may I say, Ian's, that is how she opened, and then they lobbed some. No. Wow, how could I say that? People sent me clips. They said, look at these horrible smears. And may I say, Ian's transition of my SC to ask about pardoning everyone was masterful. Vivek didn't let down with the answer.
Ian had some fun transitions. My favorite was he was talking, he didn't remember now. And
I remember,
he goes,
yeah.
How do you feel about colonizing Mars?
Yes.
And I just thought, there is no one like Ian Crossland. And he said it, they said it, the whole hit.
They did a great job. I thought it was a great idea. Satasha Catergator, oh boy, she said, finally, I had a chance to tune in Timcast this week. While I made a public apology to Seamus for accusing of feeling spoons, Michael Mose convinced me this morning that James was at least stealing something. Yeah, apparently a lot of free rent out of your head. Unbelievable. All these criticisms, all these attacks. Sick of it. I'm exhausted.
He has like an evil villain energy right now. I wish you could see it. He's like making strong accusations.
I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do this. I wouldn't. You guys know I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. You know me, I wouldn't do that. I haven't seen any spoons around. Yeah, then where would I put them if I took them?
Oh my gosh, are you the weak, Carter? Because I will freak out.
I have 2 forks in my studio.
Oh, so you're not weighing into this debate at all? Other than to say there are no spoons in our office.
Well, I'm kind of insinuating that we should fix that, but I don't know.
We all know that feeling of finding yourself stuck on the side of the road or struggling to get your vehicle running. But now you can avoid that pain by giving your vehicle the parts it needs before that breakdown oh no moment. With eBay Guaranteed Fit and over 122 million parts and accessories, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. For the parts and accessories that fit your vehicle, just look for the green check. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices. ebaymotors.com. Those who buy it only, exclusions apply.
One evil chef said, I would like to take a libertarian stance in today's culture. Drop the drinking age to 18. Should be young, dumb, and learning lessons. Raise the voting age to 38. You should have been told live until you learn to survive 18. Look, I'm certain that opposed to raising voting age. I also, this is interesting. We'll talk about the fact that in Europe, the drinking age is much lower. I think in a functional country, you can and do have a lower you're an adult age to be able to drink. However, you don't raise virtuous adults who can handle anything, let alone their living today. So I kind of understand why it's that.
Well, and I think our 18-year-old limit is weird. Like a lot of
It's forced
European
onto the
countries have a
States.
graduated system, so you can drink beer when you're younger, right? Your parents can drink at home, stuff like that. And I think that encourages a culture that has alcohol be a part of it, and you learn to drink in a calm way. You learn to drink meals socially. You know, there was, I always reference this, but there was a group of university presidents who, led by the president of Dartmouth University, I believe, who said, we want to lower the drinking age to 18 because we want people to not come to college campuses and start to binge drinking.
That's a good point.
Right.
I showed up to college when I was ready for
Really?
Yeah. So I didn't.
Why? Did you get coached at home, or you just had a lot?
Well, I just drank a lot in high school.
Yeah, same. But I mean, responsibly also. But
Right.
from an Irish Catholic family in New York City, you drank,
Parents are so
etc.
mad right now.
I would be in favor of no drinking age whatsoever. But if we're going to talk about changing ages, everything has to be consistent. So I would raise the voting age to 21 because I do not feel like we should be able to vote, which is the most full expression of participation in a republic, about people who cannot partake in that republic. So when you have 18-year-olds telling 21-year-olds you can't have a beer, but you have 18-year-olds sending them to war, I have a problem with that. So if I am old enough to vote, I'm old enough to do everything in that functional republic. If I'm not able to do some of it, then I can't vote.
Interesting. See, I disagree. I think that there's good reason to say, like, all right, you're an adult, but you still can't vote. Just because historically, you couldn't vote till you were 21, but people were basically on their own providing for themselves from the time they were 16. So you had a couple years under your belt of, like, learning about what the world was before you were able, you paid rent before or built a house, lived on that.
Universally true.
I think there are some people. Hold on. Did you just not all me? Did you just hashtag not all?
Not all
Did you
due to
point
your
out? Yes,
base.
of course. I'm speaking in
It's
generalities.
broadcast,
Do you
am I
want me?
right?
Do you want me to highlight every individual case of every single person who's ever voted so that I
You're
can parse
saying
through?
generally people were on their own at
Yes.
16, and I
Yeah,
get
yeah.
although
No, you expected to be able to provide for yourself by that point.
So this, I think what you're talking about is responsibility.
Yes, so if you don't raise people to be responsible.
Can you
No.
break up this fight?
Well, I was gonna say with Hannah Cole's point, some different cultures, yeah, cultures, like some like men will live with their families until they're
Right.
until they're like 30 something.
The Italians. Yeah. Mom still does my laundry and absolutely.
Mamma mia.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to quickly finish my point though. I was going to say I think the responsibility is hugely important. And that's what we're talking about here. Where if you boil it down, you're talking about responsibility to say like, oh well, yeah, alcohol does this to me. I can restrain myself from drinking too much of it. And that just happened. I went to high school in Singapore. And I drank 18 there, and at some point when all the seniors in high school are turning 18, you're able to drink and you're still going to school. You're still expected to control yourself and handle yourself. And
Yeah.
it's, like you said when you came to school in Texas, right?
Yeah.
People, binge drink like crazy, and it's wild to see that. When I showed up at college, I was like, wow, these people they're like just unhinged. It's just wild culture here. But anyways, yeah.
Serge, is it just me, or is there no right way to pronounce this next thing? No. It's not like inappropriate or anything. I just how do we
trust you.
I mean,
Legamithigayan?
yeah.
I think that's what we're going
Sounds
with.
good.
Biden claiming to grow up in a black church is. I shouldn't laugh. You know what he said? He said, not a joke.
No joke.
Biden, is it also, yeah. Biden claiming to grow up in a black church is like the real life version of Steve Martin's character recounting his life in the movie The Jerk, when he said, I was a small black child. He's a classic dishonest lawyer from an era when you couldn't be fact-checked. Yeah, here's the thing, man. Now that you on the church, you can be fact-checked. Even in technological era, they weren't doing it. They weren't fact-checking. Let's see if you go. But he has so many different identities. I'm not one to diagnose from afar with anything other than dementia. But I gotta say, I'm getting like tinges of BPD over here with this guy. He feels like he's just a different person in every room. Of course, I'm being facetious here. We know that this is not a medical condition. This is just being a politician. People will adopt whatever identity else that in this instance, he just happens to be like particularly really good at it. Yeah, he is. He'll become a different guy.
But it was
Didn't make a
easier.
career out of it.
Right. It's easier to do that in 1970 when there wasn't an internet, but now there is, and he still does it. He's Walter Mitty.
Now he can't help
Now he's
it.
kind of lost.
I
No, he
grew up in
doesn't
the
really
Jewish
know.
community.
He believes
Black
this.
community. I grew up in the Puerto Rican community. Name of communities growing up in.
This is all of the communities. He was like, there was like a big Venn diagram of communities, and he was like just in that dot right in the middle.
You didn't know Scranton was the most diverse place in all of America in 1950.
That's true.
You know,
He
it
grew
was,
up in every
most people
community.
think it was all white coal miners, but actually it was not. It was the most diverse microcosm of all America in 1950.
What are the different churches he said he was in?
She's been in definitely Puerto Rican community, black church, Jewish synagogue. The daily, we went to mass every Sunday.
Very busy.
I'm sure when he was in India, he told them I grew up and going to Sikh and Buddhist temples, and no joke.
Yeah,
No joke.
I grew up in the Indian church, no joke. Alright, so we have Kathy saying it is heartening to see strong Americans making a difference. Bud Light's on the freedom. Try that in a small town. correction system a look. Eye emoji. Red genie. Eye
I was just gonna say also your friend who went out to support in Nebraska. I feel like that's a good sign too, right?
It is.
All sorts of cool things happening in our culture. We shouldn't be too cynical about them.
Trevor, good job, buddy. So proud of that kid.
And he just like
Yeah,
DM'd you on
same
Twitter.
man. Yeah, DM me on Twitter and said, could you help us out with this? And I would do it again. I mean, this is happening, and I'm sure I wouldn't put anyone on the spot, but I'm sure other people in these situations would. You know, my school board, I know people do this. I know people involved in the trans stuff in the school level. And they say, my school board's pushing this. Can you help us with our school board vote? Can you help us with that? And they show up because this is what we do. I love it. Famous is last.
No, sorry, some super chat. They're just these brats.
Is it accusing you of something? Absolutely.
They know it's good form. X, Y, and Z said medically assisted self-harm. That is a great way of putting it. It's a great way of putting it. Yeah, MASH will start calling it that. That's awesome. That's good acting. Thank you. I've got that kind of friends. Is that TMI?
X, Y, and Z, I did it on Twitter.
Well, he didn't say that I was going to throw the acronym for. I was the one who noticed what the first letter of every word was.
Okay.
That takes something of a genius, right?
Yeah, but they capitalized it, but okay.
We're just really moderated tonight.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what to make of this. I think I could maybe work most of that into an article. There is an obligation with language to like when we're writing to like not give into the left bias, right? The gender affirming care, but also not lean so far verbose that you're also just leaning into a different language. So it's definitely an interesting suggestion. I tend to say, and it's really awkward, medical gender-related intervention services. And the thing is, it makes these types of articles very difficult. It doesn't feel like my best writing because it's the most awkward phrasing of all time. But I don't know.
But philosophy of language, we were talking about this before the show started. That's why the left dominates the language conversation. Wittgenstein would have a field day if we were alive. And what did he say? If I can control your language, I can control your reality.
Yeah.
And that's why they jump onto gender affirming, they jump onto choice, they jump onto queer, they jump onto gay, they take words and they redefine them. Top surgery.
Gender affirming care. It's actually called MASH.
Yeah.
You have to match it.
That's right. TN says the Chicago gifts for immigrants include AK-47s. Oh man, honestly, it wouldn't be all that shocking. I'm sure there's some kind of. I think we actually can't afford that to do that. I think it's inhumane. How can we as a country say we're living up to our common ideals if we don't do that?
We get them from
Oh yeah, we're running out of all kinds of things. I don't understand. I also feel like I could do better at talking to people who have strong arguments for immigration because more and more, and maybe this is just the sphere that I'm in, but people who I think was moderate, even lean slightly progressive, are much more open to restricting immigration than I feel like they ever were in my lifetime. You know, and I think that
We have from Jason Hutchinson, taxation is theft, Hunter Biden is, and then he compliments him here. I'm not going to read it out loud because I'm not ever going to have a compliment to Hunter Biden come out of my mouth, so that it isn't complimenting Hunter Biden. But
Like, don't say it.
the next words he said, you don't have, I'll say, Hunter Biden is,
pretty based.
it's horrible. It's just sick. That word needs, the dignity of that word needs to be respected.
yeah, I was gonna say, what about that? What about him being?
Because taxation is theft, so he was paying his taxes, that's what they're saying. I think that's sickening. I think that's sickening.
Yeah,
Listen.
it's pretty based to not have to keep up with the
Exactly, it's pretty based. It's pretty based to not do what the peons have to do.
Yeah. And his dad is a Republican president. It's pretty based to abuse that privilege.
So I'm gonna read this next super chat just to let people know that I do give voice to opposing opinions, and if people say things that are incorrect, I'm going to hear them out. So Sabi Vet says first super chat for Shimcast. I'm loving Shimcast, but I'm still amazed Tim would lead a supreme region called
Read it. Somebody read
You'd
it.
love it. Give us Springcast. Also, your name looks like CMUS.
He must. I know, but listen, this is.
Wow, the people have spoken and they want Brimcast.
Firstly,
How interesting.
one one person spoke, and this is exactly why we were having a conversation on the issues with democracy. I'm the monarch here. Who are you? Turn your chair. You know what? Turn your chair around.
I will not.
I just want you to turn that chair around.
Nope.
When Tim gets back here in
Have we
trouble.
done a poll search?
Yeah.
No, but we could do a poll. We could do a poll about that.
If I decide that I'm interested in entertaining such absurd questions, we will.
We've been taken over by a dictatorship. I'm concerned about it. No, I mean,
Tim
of course,
in charge.
I would be happy. He did actually.
He said, well, I'm gone, you're in charge. That's what he said to me.
I don't believe all of that.
Those are his words. He
I
said,
think we were just the ones that stood right there. I will give Tim a call that he was bouncing his film. I think he went to his own business, Freedom Tunes, which is great, and also had that YouTube minute there, but they're back. So I, as much as I obviously was personally support and advocate for a Brimcast, I think he should give Tim some credit.
thank you.
He is
Base. Thank you. That's true. And I want to ask you all.
This is my diplomatic government. When the next election cycle comes up,
Oh, I'm sorry. You have personal and private opinions? Interesting. I'd like to see your emails. So, I have a YouTube channel called Freedom Tunes that was taken down. It was back up, but we weren't able to. We usually release video every Thursday. We weren't able to, so I really want to ask you guys to go to Freedom Tunes and subscribe, please, because that would help us a lot. We were hoping we'd be able to get a boost in traffic on the video we released since I'm hosting the show, since Tim left me in charge. Couldn't happen because the channel was taken down this week. So I'm just going to ask you guys to go check that out.
You
And
mean
also
you're trying
become
to-
members at freedomtunes.com. Become members at freedomtunes.com and you'll be supporting what I do. You'll be helping me get free of big tech, and you'll also get an extra cartoon each week, which exists behind the paywall. How's that sound? How do you like them apples?
sounds like you're poaching Tim's audience for your own benefit. This does not sound like a very nice thing to do.
I'm not poaching
To
his
your best
audience.
buddy,
I didn't
Tim.
tell them to unsubscribe from members at timcast.com. I think they should become members at timcast.com too. Hannah Claire, this is not a zero-sum game. The world's big enough for both of us. Well, at least me and Tim.
Shifty character, we just gotta keep eyes
A
on him.
shifty character? Well, I would disagree. Your opinion is very little. Alberto Chipra says, I chatted yesterday about Vivek as VP and hope it didn't come off as too dismissive of him. I'm liking the guy in his message and hope the best for him, but as of now, I'm strongly supporting him. So,
I think it's good to ask
it
questions
was
like
really
that.
dismissive. He really upset me. No, he's fine. I mean, he's fine with all the questions I could ask him, but I will say this. The man isn't running a vice presidential campaign. He's not spending vice presidential money on this. This man is running to be president. You know what? I will say this. I really enjoyed the conversation with him, and I think he went way deeper on his answers to the questions we gave him than any other presidential candidate I've ever heard speak on those issues. He really cut into the spiritual core of the matter.
And
I was very impressed.
And that's great that he did it, and for the length of time he did it, because most presidential candidates, and having worked on several presidential campaigns, will do their fake town halls where the questions are pre-scripted, and the person gets up and says, Carter, good morning. My
Right.
name is, and
Right.
they know exactly exactly who you are, and they tilt their head, they say, that's a great question.
always
Carter.
wondered
Thank
how they
you.
knew the name.
Thank you for asking me that. And let me just say that, and it's all scripted. So to sit in this type of forum where you get not only super chats, but you get each other, all of you, that's hard, and that's why candidates don't do it. And I keep advocating for this. My last little plug that I think is so important. Before the days of COVID, our politicians, especially our congressmen and women, used to do that in their districts during the summer. And when COVID happened, they're like, we can't have town halls because, and then no one has brought that back. No one who runs for Congress wants to stand in the high school gym and say, Carter, what's your question? You know, like, what's your question? No, they don't want to listen. So they hide behind the COVID and they're not bringing it back. The best thing you can do to get involved with democracy at the local level is force your politicians to stand there with a microphone in the gym and answer every damn question. And you will see whether or not they are worthy of the job.
Amen. Amen. Completely agree. We have from Fisher. Kingston, Daniel. So you ready for this?
Oh boy.
Prepared. You want to get your phone out, Google it, and it's gonna be a real tough one. Now they're asking you, Daniel. So you support nuclear reactors? I think they meant do, but the question's simple.
Of course, I love nuclear power.
Okay.
Yeah, nuclear power works. I think a lot of this shit.
Okay.
Yeah, we should have more. I'm fascinated in the growth of micro-nuclear reactors. I think we should have as many of them as possible. I love nuclear reactors because they also require an awful lot of fossil fuels.
Can I ask you, I think I probably asked you about that. How did you get into
I hated the lies of the environmental left. So to take on their lies, I had to learn this issue, and I hated the damage the environmental left was doing. Just the way the COVID people, the damage they did to 14-year-old girls committing suicide at what was it, 10 times the average rate. You know, and the damage that we do to people for an agenda, that's what got me involved in it. Because the damage they do to rural America, West Virginia coal towns are not very far from here. And when you see the state of what we've done to those communities and the poverty we've left them in, it made me very, very angry. And I try not to be an angry person. We talked about anger before.
Yeah.
But there is a righteous anger.
Yep.
Jesus made a whip out of cords and drew kicked them out of the temple. And sometimes I think we need that.
Yeah. No, look, I agree. Righteous indignation is important. You are definitely mild-mannered. I haven't seen you. By mild-mannered, I don't mean like you speak your opinion, but you don't get angry with people when they challenge you, I've noticed. And I'll also say righteous indignation is very valuable. There's an important point about that, about Jesus Christ and making something happen. You can do that. You can yell at people if you're also willing to die for them. That's the other part of the story people forget. You got to be on that level. Cheers, and also depending on the but cheers to Daniel and Rick Whitbeck of, I'm sorry, Mine Abel says cheers to Daniel and Rick Whitbeck of PTL. Oh, sure. Nice. I've seen the drive in Belvedere. Thank you for the voice you lend to responsible resource development. If it hasn't been grown, then it must have been mined.
Yes. Heather Mine is the largest copper deposit in the world. We need a boatload of copper, but when you go green, your average electric vehicle has 70 to 90 pounds of copper in it. And so market forces would dictate that we need to mine more copper. But yet the same environmental movement that says we have to go green says you can't open Pebble Mine, it's bad for the environment.
Well,
and so we get our copper from third world countries mined by slaves.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you that. Aren't the components needed for these car batteries mined by child slaves?
Absolutely, around the world. And all of those components could be mined responsibly in America. We have almost all the raw materials we need if we were allowed to mine them. But yet the same forces that say you have to have this green agenda say, oh, you can't open these mines, it's bad for the climate. So why are we favoring mining? Because the reason why Nike makes their sneakers in China, right? There's the same reason why we want to get our cobalt, not from Minnesota, but we want to get it from the Congo. Take a collection. It shows the true pernicious nature of this movement.
Well, and I think it's really interesting because it's the same people who are saying, we have higher standards, we should not allow child labor, but they won't demand the manufacturing jobs to come back to the U.S. They need to oversee this, right? And it's complete hypocrisy.
Good
They
union
are,
jobs!
Good
Yeah.
union jobs. No, not for them. As long as they get their step sheet and they don't have to think about what's happening to children, and they can just say that consumers are being to transgender identifying minors here, they don't have to think about the lives that go into the cheap products they buy from Target, then it doesn't matter to them. It's complete hypocrisy. You really believe accepting children would bring back manufacturing jobs?
Well, it's also interesting because I mentioned earlier that what the left will do is they'll say, this really horrible, objectively evil thing is something people are going to do anyway, so we just have to let it happen so we can do it responsibly or have it done responsibly. And then what always happens is more people do it, and they're always wrong. But the one argument, or the one area where you actually can make that argument, is when it is something that isn't objectively evil. So with mining, for example, which is not objectively evil, there are evil ways of doing it, and people are doing it in evil ways, and we're just letting them do it that way instead of doing it ourselves and driving them out of the market. That is actually one instance where us doing something could prevent people from doing it in an irresponsible way by reducing market demand for what they're doing, and reduce. Kyle Flower says, I have a friend that used to work for Democratic campaigns. Brags about how he was able to write off pot as a campaign expense. Well, you need anesthesia, don't you, to be working for a Democratic campaign? Not that high. Alright, do we now? Oh, sorry, do you guys want to comment on that? I thought you couldn't speak. Are you gonna make your mind up? Jason Hutchinson says eventually you run out of room on the balance sheet for BS and reality returns. Yeah.
That's the truth.
Man. We go with one more here before we sign out. I'm not gonna read that nonsense.
Yes, dude, come on.
It's nonsense.
Come on.
It's nonsense.
That's good. I'm trying to